is being recorded.
Oh dear, what a week to be an Arsenal fan. If you didn't laugh, you'd cry, wouldn't you? But we're going to bring you some sanity, podders. We have got a team and a half. When we're talking about the girls, I mean, they've got half a team, but we've got a team and a half. So let's do the rounds. We've got Georgie Boy. How are you, Georgie Boy?
I'm surviving, but we move.
That's as good as you can do at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah.
Lauren, smiling away. Thank goodness. How are you?
I'm great. You know, I'm banking on the girls getting a good result this week and getting us to the Champions League final, because I've given up all hope with the men, I think. But all good here, all good. Just trying to stay positive.
This is what I like when you do this, because it backfires and we get a result. Yeah. So
true.
When you're pessimistic, it seems to work for us. Paul Mack's back. How are you, Paul?
Yeah, still recovering from my spell of manic depression, and just keeping an eye on the Leeds-Leicester game, which isn't going all the way at the moment.
Oh, what's the score?
It's 1-0 to Leeds, which is the worst possible result from my perspective.
Yeah, it's a bit tight down there, isn't it? Anyway, podders, we're going to push on. We'll cover the disappointing loss to Manchester United in the WSL, the encouraging fight back against Wolfsberg abroad. So that sets up a really nice sort of second leg for us, as long as it goes according to plan and we get no more injuries. Talking of which, Leah Williamson was injured. An RCL injury. We've had 3 of those. It's an absolute nightmare, isn't it, Lauren? We'd be lucky to get 11 players out by the end of the season.
Yeah, they're going down like flies, and there's been a lot of injuries this season. Obviously, the most notable have been the ACLs for Beth Mead and Miedema within the space of about 3 weeks of each other, early enough in the season. Obviously, World Cup season, nobody wants to be injured long term, and to have big names like that go out so early on in the season was disheartening. But I think this late on in the season, the World Cup is literally just there. We can see it now coming. And for Leah Williamson, obviously, Lioness captain to have been ruled out now for the remainder of the season, the World Cup, probably well into next season as well. It's absolutely devastating. She's at the top of her game. She's such an exceptional player. You'd be very proud of her as an Arsenal fan. Absolutely thrilled to have her at the club, and
it's all about timing as well, isn't it? It's like, it was bad enough the other 2 got injured and there was still quite a bit of the season to go, but this one is devastating on a run-in. It's a bit like the chaps. They're having a rough ride with people going by the wayside with Saliba. And apparently Xhaka won't be available for Man City. I hope that's just a rumour that I heard from someone leaning over the garden fence with nothing better to do. But I've got a fancy that we'll talk about that later. But first up, Southampton. It wasn't in anybody's script, was it really? If you thought it was going to be a breeze, podders, you got a giant wedgie and a poke in the eye. It's one of those nerve-wracking run-ins. This is what it's going to be. It's going to be down to the elbows and severely shot, a bit like Paul Mack when he's watching the Everton games, nervous as hell. 3 games, 3 draws, 6 points lost, 7 goals scored, 7 goals conceded, which caused a massive uproar on social media. We'll go through all that. Bukayo Saka got slaughtered, Aaron Ramsdale and Mikel Arteta. But we'll get into that in a while. There's certain people that I despise on social media as well, and some of them are from AFTV. Troops. I don't know whether you've seen this character. Troops, absolute tosser. Lee Gooner or Gooner Lee, he's absolutely detestable, but he's got about 10 zillion followers. So we're not in that camp, but we're in the sane and rational camp. And the detestable DT. All these characters, they all come out when Arsenal are having a tough time and they all stick the knife in, and that's what really annoys me. I can't stand any of them. I won't watch any of them. And why Robbie still entertains that Troops is a complete mystery. George, did you expect this type of overreaction? I suppose we're used to it now, aren't we? We get it every week when we lose.
Yes.
Which we do a lot.
I did expect the overreaction. It's the Easter holidays, so obviously they've all been stuck at home, not been able to go out that much. I think there's a there's a typical fan on social media expects you to win 3-4-0 every week. I call them FIFA fans. I completely agree with what you said about all of them people. Something they've all got in common with each other is that I'm all blocked by them. So that's quite a good.
Oh, you've done well.
Yeah.
How'd you manage that? I'll try it myself.
I'll tell you off air. But no, like I'm not. I was at the Southampton game and the performances haven't been great recently, but I just think football fans have short memories. Like this time last season, we fell away to not getting the top 4. We're in the title race, all right. We've dropped a few silly points, but I said to people with the West Ham game, I thought it'd be tight. The Southampton game, I thought we'd have enough to win, but these teams, as Paul would tell you, these teams are desperate for every point is huge. And I think that's what people forget.
That's not nice, is it, Paul, calling you desperate?
But we are. I think George has nailed it exactly there.
We've got to find some balance here, haven't we, really, with this the fans' expectations are out of control, Lauren. What's happened is, I mean, we weren't expected to be in a title race. I mean, we haven't touched on it before, but we're in a title race and we should be quite content with the style of football that we're playing, exactly where we are in the table, and that we're actually in a title race to start with, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you have to think back, and what was the goal at the start of the season? It was top 4, is to get that Champions League place. I think we said this before, we've absolutely overachieved this season. You just have to look at the squad. I mean, the depth isn't there really to be going for, to be challenging the likes of City, you know. Sometimes it takes a bit of luck, and that might be other teams falling off. I don't think Arsenal are where they are purely because of luck. We haven't lost a game in the Premier League since February, I believe it was against City. I mean, since then we've gone on an unbeaten run. We've dropped a lot of points, yeah, we have in draws and that kind of thing. But the way that we're playing, we've the second youngest team in the league. You have to be happy with it. Whatever happens, you know, however the season ends, it's been an incredibly enjoyable season to watch, to be a part of. We'll have to wait and see what happens now in the upcoming weeks, but you have to look at the positives, and the way I see it, it can only go up from here. You know, it really can. What Mikel Arteta has done to bring us from 8th to 5th to 2nd, pushing first. We're, you know, I mean, we're first at the moment. We just have to remain positive and see what happens. But what he's done in that short amount of time, the way he's absolutely I want to say revolutionized the club, but the way he's, I suppose, reinvigorated the club, brought the fans back in. He's made us believe in something that we thought was probably unattainable at the start of the season. And, you know, it's been some journey, and you'd like to think, you know, if he doesn't pull it off this season, he's got that Champions League spot. He'll be able to attract a lot more bigger names, a lot of young players who aren't happy at the likes of Chelsea, or, you know, teams that might be going down. Will be able to get players from them. And, you know, Champions League football, we're going to be able to attract a lot of the big talent from Europe. So you can only see the squad getting bigger. Hopefully the likes of Saka and Saliba will sign on and extend their contract. And yeah, like I said, it can only really go up from here. So there's a lot more positives to take from this season, rather than just accepting what, you know, the trolls are saying on Twitter and, you know, saying you threw it away, this, that, the other. We didn't. We never expected to be this far. I don't think any of the players did either. So yeah, there's a lot more to focus on in a positive manner than there is to I suppose, belittle the players and
I agree
criticize
with that.
them.
Right. I think what people forget as well, and I don't like comparing because I absolutely hate them, is Liverpool, is that the season that they missed out on winning the title the first time, I think it was, they lost it by like a point, wasn't it, to Man City? And then the next season they just thrived and took the season by storm. I honestly don't believe and don't see a reason why Arsenal, if we miss out this season, can't go and do that next season.
I'm in that for a dose of optimism, George. I mean, we haven't even finished this one yet, but we're having next season as well. Why not?
And I think that's what, like Lauren hit on the head. We don't lose. Like we haven't. I think that's what people forget. Like Arsenal last season would have lost that game on Friday, And even the West Ham game, I even think last season we would have lost that.
Mm.
Yeah,
I agree.
absolutely. Paul, bring some objectivity because we're all Gooners and you're a toffee. Bring some objectivity because Arsenal are still at the top. All right, they've got 2 games in hand, Man City, but with 5 points clear, we could literally afford a draw, couldn't we? As long as we don't lose, we're still in, and we're still kind of in with a sniff.
Yeah, I mean, I've been reading some of the social media reaction to the draw, and it was a draw. Most people seem to view it as a defeat, but it was a draw, and it still meant you had 1 extra point than you had before the game. So you have to look at it logically. There's a great headline on the back of the Daily Mirror on Saturday morning saying "Bottlers to Battlers," and I thought that the comeback from 3-1 down really showed a lot about the Arsenal team that fans could be encouraged with. Because I think, as George said there, that's a game they could have easily lost 3-1, maybe 4-1, and then I think the criticism might be more justification to some of the comments made. But at the end of the day, to come back with that in his hand. To come back from the crushing blow of basically giving 3 goals away, to come back and snatch a point, you have to take the positives from that. It's still in Arsenal's own hands. Okay, the City games, I think it's not so much about Arsenal going there to win, which a lot of the comments kind of going towards at the moment. It's more a case of going there not losing. Come away with a 0-0 draw at Man City. That's a fantastic result because it puts the onus back on Arsenal. It stops City's momentum. I think people underplaying City's fixtures to come. They've got a cup final against Man United, got 2 Champions League semi-finals, possibly a Champions League final. So there are going to be distractions for them as well. They're also playing away at Everton. They're playing Leeds United. So they're playing some of the teams struggling at the bottom as well. Will be absolutely desperate for points as well. So I think Arsenal, in some ways, Arteta's been victim of his own success because it was such a great and unexpected start to the season. He's created this kind of a feeling that Arsenal are going to do it this year. And it was always going to be a tough call. And I just don't get these fans who complain when the team loses. Losing is part of football. You become a better team by reacting to how you lose. And people who as George said, spend the time playing FIFA or Football Manager don't get the concept that every good team will lose a match. It's part of the football process. And I still remember the 89 season, and I still remember when Arsenal then looked like blowing it when they were clear at the top. They dropped points left, right, and centre on the running, and it came down to the last game at Arsenal, at Anfield, and they won 2-0 to take the lead against all the odds. I'm sure if Arteta is trying to look for examples to boost the players with it, I'd be showing that 89 video all the time. Look, guys, that team's written off in 89. You can still go to Man City and get something because, made no doubt about it, if Arsenal were to win at Man City, then the whole picture changes dramatically.
Yeah, it does, absolutely. Lauren, before we go to the game, we've got to pick your brains a bit. What's the problem at the moment? Is it inexperience, nerves? Is it something else? I think it's probably a mixture of various bits and pieces. Plus, you can't kind of go to or get a club come to you that are in a relegation battle and just roll over. They're not going to do it, are they?
Absolutely not. No, we've said it before. I think George put it perfectly. These clubs are desperate for points as well. They're fighting their battles the exact same as us. The pressure's on, from above, from behind and above, and they need those points, just as much as we do. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we're going to go into in a bit more detail, but the mistakes that were made to lead to the goals were, they've been made before in this season. It's not the first time a goal's been scored against us in the first minute at home this season. It's not the first time that, a ball's gone in behind, and I mean, Walcott's goal was good, but, and obviously set pieces. How many times have we conceded from set pieces just after the World Cup alone? They're reoccurring issues, and I think they are becoming costly. What does it lie on? Obviously we have a lot of a lot of players who are out injured at the moment. Saliba's an awful big miss. I think we're seeing that not only defensively but also attackingly. We're not seeing Ben White get up as far up the pitch as he normally would to support Saka to give him that overlap. We feel a bit limited at the moment given the constraints within within the squad because of, I don't criticize Holding too much, but he isn't Saliba, you know, and we saw it the other day as well when Vieira came in for Xhaka. Like I said, the squad depth just isn't there yet to be pushing the same way City can, because we're a bit more limited than they are. That being said, you know, it's not just on those players. I think a little bit of lack of concentration at the start of games, completely shutting off for set pieces as well. That's not.
Lauren, we don't learn, do we? Because we've done it time and time again in a minute or 9 minutes or whatever, and it all goes wrong. And you think they'd be prepared when they come out. You know, I love them to bits, but you think after you get your nose bloodied once or twice early on, you'd be prepared for it.
Absolutely, you know, and like I said, we've seen all this before. We've seen these mistakes happen again and again, and it's you have to wonder, is it, you know, we said this last week when Jay was there and he didn't really agree with the idea of complacency, but is it the players maybe taking their position for granted, maybe not feeling the pressure from, you know, directly from the game they're playing, rather from the results that are coming from City? What does it lie on? Is it lack of concentration? I'm not sure. I'm not anywhere near these players to be able to ask.
Do you know when you get
out,
a really good side and you can kind of mesmerize yourself sometimes? You know, when we went 2-0 up, you kind of mesmerize yourself with, this is brilliant. And then just a couple of mistakes, individual errors. This is what we're talking about, Potters. Individual errors. It's not the team are naff or shit or anything like that. It's just a series of errors. Another thing that I pick up on with you, Lauren, is not only have we got Saliba out, but we've got Tomiyasu out, and he's a quality replacement. So not only have we been deprived of our first choice, but a really, really top second choice as well.
Yeah, I think, you know, if Tomiyasu was fit, we probably would see Ben White come in to cover for Saliba, because, you know, him and Gabriel had a fantastic partnership last season, and it's quite surprising we haven't really seen him drop in. I suppose it's probably because of Tomiyasu's injury, but I think that's probably what Arteta would have done had all our players been fit and ready to go. But alas, that's not how it is. Of course, that would be too easy. But
well, it's an Arsenal thing, isn't it? That's what we do.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
That's the name.
It's frustrating. It's definitely frustrating, and you'd like to think that they would learn from these mistakes, but we're seeing them over and over again, and you know, I don't think we're going to see a solution anytime soon.
Sadly not. Right, let's get to the team and then get cracking. Aaron Ramsdale, Ben White, Rob Holding, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Martin Odegaard, Thomas Partey, Vieira, Saka, Jesus, and Martinelli. Paul, let's get to the elephant in the room. Fabio Vieira in for Xhaka, who we thought initially was ill, but apparently it's coming out that he's injured. Fabio Vieira, was that the right choice? There's been a lot made of that. And as soon as I saw him on the team sheet, I thought, you really need someone with experience. I mean, that's why we went out and got Jorginho for the experience. And they put Vieira in, who I think is great creatively, but he's a little bit lightweight in terms of physicality. What did you think, Paul, when you saw that?
Well, my initial reaction was the fact that Xhaka wasn't playing was a big blow to Arsenal, because he's brought so much to the team this season in terms of his commitment, in terms of his leadership, in terms of his passing, and the goals he's contributed as well, and the assists. Like you, when I saw Jorginho was on the bench and Vieira was playing, I did have a little concern, because every game now in the run into the end of the season is a massive game, so you need your big time experienced players. Now Jorginho has got bags of experience. To me, it might have possibly made more sense for Jorginho to start, and then maybe towards the end, when the game was a bit more open, be able to come on at some stage in the second half. But I didn't think that was quite the right call. But we don't know what Arteta's season training. We don't quite know what his game plan was before. We don't know how much time he had to react to Xhaka's injury as well. But I was really concerned. I've not been overly impressed with the bits of seeing Vieira so far this season. And you need people who are going to put us in the tackles, who are going to fight for every loose ball, who are going to G up the players around them. And I just don't think he had the experience to do that. So it's one of those things that if that comes off, it's a great decision. It didn't come off. So, and the manager can't get every decision right. So you have to accept that sometimes. But yeah, the losses are what what Jack has brought to Arsenal this season cannot be underestimated. And it was a huge blow. And I'm sure if you're in that Southampton dressing room beforehand, you're thinking, no Xhaka today. That must give them a real boost as well. And I'm sure in that Southampton dressing room as well, Tom, Theo Walcott was saying, hey, that's Tom Phoebe, guys, me slacking me off on the tube, on the pods all season. It's payback time, mate. It's payback time.
George, we could have had an alternative, couldn't we, really? We could have put Zinchenko in that sort of holding, attacking midfield role, and we could have put Tierney in. There were options, but he just didn't take the option. He obviously believes wholeheartedly in Vieira, and I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm not dissing him or anything like that, because he is obviously a quality player, and he will come in the next couple of seasons, hopefully bulk up a bit and sort us out. But there were options. I think we missed out on a few options.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of options, to be honest. Like, I could have seen Smith Rowe playing there. Could have even seen Trossard. Like, and then the reason I don't think Jorginho plays because Partey and Jorginho don't really seem to be able to play together. But Thomas Partey, that's something we'll come to later. I've got a controversial view about that.
Have that, yeah. Lovely. Like that.
But I think for Vieira, his confidence has just gone as well. And I don't know, maybe he needs to like bulk up quite a bit, because I think you don't become one of the biggest, best assist people in Portugal if you're crap. Like, he had a better record than Bruno Fernandes, and we know how much the English media love him. So,
well, let's also say, George, that when we've had at Arsenal some very slight and small players. Jose Antonio Reyes, he was small. Cesc Fabregas was small. But they brought something else to the table. Vieira's lacking that at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. I think his confidence has gone quite a bit as well, Vieira. My only reason I wouldn't move Zinchenko to midfield is he can play there, but I don't like Holding and Tierney as two people in the back four. I just think it just brings us back to the negative side of what our issues are. But one thing I will say I don't think helps the team, and I'm not digging anyone out, is throughout most of the season when they make mistakes or they're not playing that well, the fans are 100% behind them. Fabio Vieira, from what I was hearing when I was at the Emirates, doesn't get that.
Yeah. So
I think that is a big thing for him. That I wouldn't have played Vieira, but I don't get paid Mikel Arteta's wages, so I wish I did, but I don't. Yeah. Well,
I've got the list of the performances here, and the two lowest ones was Fabio Vieira with 2.6 and Rob Holding with 2.8, and they were really in this game two areas of concern. But
I'm surprised about that.
Said.
I'm surprised about that as well.
I'm quite surprised about that. I'm surprised someone else's name ain't on that list.
Name and shame. Come on, George.
Thomas Partey. Like, I think
he's not having the best of times, is he? Recently?
I'm in the minority here, but for me, he's cost us 2 games.
Yeah.
Like the West Ham, it was his fault for one of the goals. Yeah, and that game against Southampton. Like one or two of the goals was his fault. He just if people were saying, "What would you do?" I'll be playing Jorginho.
Last time against West Ham, he was absolutely shocking. It was his worst game in an Arsenal shirt.
I think he was up there with the Southampton one, if I'm honest. Like if I saw Jorginho playing instead of Partey tomorrow, I'm not saying it will happen. I wouldn't be surprised. And people were telling me that, we should play Partey at right back, and Ben White said, whatever you're on, I'll have some of that. Like, he can't even play midfield at the minute about putting him there. And I think Holding, like we were saying, Tom, is ready-made scapegoat. I'm not saying he's, like the song goes, better than Cannavaro, because he really isn't. But I think he's easily a scapegoat, and it would be amazing if he scores the winner tomorrow, just to shut everyone up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we do love a
No.
scapegoat. Let's move on to the
Yeah.
action then, Paul. We're going to get you involved. It was another atrocious start. 1 minute on the clock. Ramsdale commits a massive error at the back. I mean, it was a real shocker. It was a howler of epic proportions.
it was De
Trying to
Gea.
thread the. It was like that, wasn't it? He tried to thread the ball through, and there wasn't a corridor to go down. Since that episode, which I mean, we weren't surprised when they took advantage and scored. Ramsdale has absolutely been blasted by all and sundry. People saying that Martinez and Leno are better keepers on the whole, and that we shouldn't have got rid of Leno. What's your answer to that? He's not a terrible goalkeeper at all, is he? Goalkeepers, like strikers, strikers don't score goals, they get flack. Goalkeepers make a mistake, they get flack. He's not out the woods, but he's not in the shop window, is he?
I mean, Ramsdale's a good goalkeeper, no question about that. But I think on this pod, we mentioned a few times, if there's one weakness he has to his game, it's using his feet and passing the ball out from the back. I don't think that's a strong point. And you kind of looked at that goal, and I mean, I look at the two Arsenal defenders. I mean, Alcaraz quite clever, he hides behind one of them, doesn't he? So I don't actually think Ramsdale can see where he is. But then surely the defenders are saying to Ramsdale, "No, I don't want it. Don't pass it to me. Kick it long. Don't take the chance here." You can't excuse a mistake like that in a game of such importance, and certainly you don't have to repeat that in the City game. And go back to what Lauren said before as well about conceding the early goals. I think Arsenal conceded the 2 earliest goals in the Premier League this season, which isn't a great stat. And even before the ball was with Ramsdale, I think that it was Gabriel on the left-hand side had the chance to kick it down the touchline to launch an attack, but chose to pass it back to Ramsdale. Now, I'm picking hairs here, but if he does that, then that situation doesn't happen. But yeah, he just didn't see Alcaraz, who did really well, took the goal well, and it was a poor. I just sat down to watch and couldn't believe what a nightmare start that was. And from a selfish point of view, obviously with Southampton being the relegation about, last thing I wanted was Southampton going to Arsenal and getting an away win. So it was a poor start, but and obviously Ramsdale has to accept some of the blame for that. But the defender had a role to play there as well, because someone should be screaming out and saying, "No, there's a guy behind me here. Don't play it out. Play it long. Take your time." There should have been some instruction there as well, definitely. But Ramsdale will win Arsenal more points than it cost Arsenal this season, and that's the only way you can judge goalkeeper by the end of the season. And certainly, there's absolutely no question in my mind. He's a better goalkeeper than Leno. He's a far better goalkeeper than Martinez, and a much nicer person than Martinez as well.
Yeah.
Well, this is the point, isn't it? Leno wasn't commanding in his area. I mean, I think it was it Brentford tied him up on the line, and he couldn't escape. He doesn't show any authority in the box. And when we played Fulham, he was exactly the same. Martinez, fantastic goalkeeper, but you just suspect that he's not probably got the things that Arteta's looking for in terms of temperament, personality. And I mean, he comes with a massive ego by the sounds of it. And you saw him in the World Cup, quite arrogant as well. So we don't really need any of that. And I'm quite happy with Ramsdale himself. We kind of made it really easy for him, didn't we? We continued to look shell-shocked and out of sorts. Then in the 14th minute, who pops up? Theo makes it 2 for Southampton. Incredible scenes at the Emirates with the Saints doubling their lead. Walcott comes back to haunt Arsenal. It was almost scripted, wasn't it? Odegaard lost possession and allowed Walcott to get behind Gabriel, and then he shoots first time past Ramsdale. Gabriel got caught short, kind of leaning into Walcott, and it didn't work. We've seen him score that type of goal in an Arsenal shirt millions of times. Well, all right, I exaggerate. I got told a million times not to exaggerate, but there you go. And the Emirates was like a bit of a library. Then, Lauren, we came back into it. 20 minutes in, a fight back of sorts. Martinelli responds, who I thought he was one of those people or players that you couldn't give any criticism to because every time he got the ball, he was looking to do something, even though he was surrounded at times.
Yeah, no, he had a great game, and yeah, Saka, Martinelli, I think they've almost suffered a bit. Not so much Martinelli, I think he's doing all right, but Saka's definitely suffering from the lack of support he's getting from Ben White on that right hand side presently. Ben White having to be a bit more cautious of covering and getting back to cover holding. But those two were having a phenomenal game first half, and it was, it's almost a shame that they didn't exploit that more and really push harder, because they were causing so much trouble for both their fullbacks. So obviously the cross came in from Saka, and Martinelli took it first time, and what a strike it was. Beautiful goal. I think that puts him level with Fabinho now for the highest Brazilian Premier League goal scorer or something like this. I can't quite remember. Incredible. He's not getting enough praise for the season he's having. What an absolute, we talk about growth, we talk about the progression of Arsenal this season. I think Martinelli is one of those players who basically embodies what Arteta has done with the club. He's up there with, probably one of the players of the season, Premier League wide, not just with Arsenal. Every time he gets the ball, you just don't know what he's going to do with it, and he's a very exciting player. And yeah, that was one of those moments where he didn't have to do too much other than just he did, obviously to get the ball in, but it was a great ball from Saka, and what a finish it was from him. It was just what we needed as well. A good response going 2-0 down. It kind of felt like we were going to get back into
something
it
desperately.
Yeah, for sure. But no, it kind of brought that feeling, and you thought, okay, it's not over yet, thank goodness, because had that have been 3-0 down, I think that would have been game over at that point. There's no recovering from that.
Podders, I've got to tell you, we're doing an awards ceremony on the last podcast of the season, so we will be giving out the Mezzets. We'll be naming players of the season, goal of the season, and all that sort of stuff, just so you know. So if you've got anything to say, it's an Arsenal thing @gmail.com. You can vote for who you like. We'll take that in consideration, probably ignore it, but we'll go on from there. George, Bednarak, he got on my nerves a little bit, because there he was. He fell awkwardly. It was a desperate. He was on shoulders and neck, and it could have been quite nasty. And then he wouldn't go off, and it kind of reminded me of when Mario Sarri wanted the keeper to come off in a penalty shootout, and he wouldn't come off. It dragged on a bit, didn't it? What's your thoughts on that? Get off if you're getting off.
Yeah, so it's like Kepa all over again, wasn't it, really? So obviously I was at the game. So on the headset, they was like saying like, "Oh, this looks pretty bad. We hope he ain't like broke his neck or something." And then next minute he's jumped up, and I thought, "Oh," because they was even saying, "Oh, he's like Bert Troutman, like the Man City keeper from years ago that broke his neck and carried on." And then
proper football.
And then so they called for him to go off, and then he just wouldn't go off, and I'm just like, why do that? Like, for me, I'd say, like, he has to be booked for that, because that's simulation or cheating at least. Maybe not cheating as much, but it's definitely simulation.
I mean, it's disrespectful for the coach or the manager, isn't it? And you don't want that sort of thing going on.
But I think it's like one of the first games he's played recently as well, because he's been left out for a while. So it's not really what you do, is it, to impress the new sort of manager? But
well, then he turned coach, didn't he, George? He started offering advice to people on the sideline. Get off! I did
have to laugh at Martinelli when he was like on the floor. He picked up the stretcher and just threw it off the pitch, so he had to hurry up and get on with the game.
No nonsense. Right, let's move on. 45+1 off the line. Arsenal inches away from a leveller as White's header is cleared off the line. 45+7. I mean, we did get some minutes, didn't we? Yeah. 45+7. There was a right old scramble.
That's because their goalkeeper took like 2 hours to take goal kicks.
Yeah, he got on my nerves as well, to be honest. Did you get angry? Did you throw a cushion at the TV?
I was going to throw my headset at him, so he was at the ground.
That I would have liked to see, a bit of boomerang. Southampton boxed as Jesus, White and Martinelli all tried to force the effort towards the goal, but the Saints held firm. Second half, Southampton went back to the back five. Paul. Back five. I kind of expected it in a way. It was just a hold on to what you got, because I suppose they expected Arsenal to come on the rampage.
Yeah, I mean, but from the Southampton perspective, it made perfect sense. I mean, they conceded more goals than everybody else in the Premier League. I think 56, some of them on Nottingham Forest. And you're winning away 2-1 at the team that's top of the table. You know you're going to face an onslaught in the second half. So it does make sense to play a more restricted type of games, be a bit more cautious, and try and get something on the break with. And for a while, those tactics were working perfectly. So I totally understood why they were doing that. And I think the way Arsenal finished the first half would have made sellers think about, hang on, we need to do something to stop the flow, because I think in some ways the half-time whistle came too early for Arsenal, because I thought that was their best period of the game before half-time. And to some extent, whether it's because Southampton changed the system in the second half, Arsenal took a while to get going in the second period of the game. So from that point of view, from the manager's perspective, going with the back five seemed to make sense as well. Particularly, Arsenal seems more and more were trying to play high balls into the crosses when they didn't really have the numbers in there to confront the Southampton back three. We were all 6 foot plus anyway, so that was always going to be a difficult call. So yeah, I totally understood why he went for the back five. I suppose we'll come on to substitutes later. Whether Arsenal could have made substitutes a few minutes earlier to try and react to counter the Southampton back five and play it more on the ground, I'm not quite sure. So unless you guys.
Oh, okay. I thought I was being cut off there. He hasn't paid his bill. Well, 66 minutes, and it's another upset, isn't it? Ward-Prowse is involved, and it's Kaleta. Did I get that right? Heads the ball home, unmarked, Ramsdale. Another shocker of defensive slackness and sloppiness. Not picking up people, waiting for someone else to go and mark them. Lauren, I know we're going to keep on about it, but tighten up. You've got the training to iron this stuff out, and it's so important in games. Then you lose your position again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, how many times does it have to happen? And I think, I can't remember who exactly said it, but after the game on Friday night, one of the Jamie Carragher, maybe, I can't remember who it was, they said basically, look, you have to look at who was on that player. It was Zinchenko and Saka. They just let him run wild. And it was a great point he made. There's two small enough players. Why are they marking the back post? That kind of way. I mean, I don't think that the Arsenal team is particularly a tall team, but there's definitely bigger lads than both Zinchenko and Saka there who could be covering that back post. And it just looks unorganized. It looks as if, it just doesn't look as though there's any thought going into these set pieces, despite the fact that we're conceding basically every game from a set piece at this rate. And it's really frustrating to watch. And, two massive names there. There's no Holding there. There's no Vieira there. That's Saka and that's Zinchenko. Two of our best players, two of the players who have been praised week in, week out. It's just complacency, and it's just a complete lack of concentration for, a few seconds of the game, but they turn out to be vital and they end up making more work for themselves. So, you think they'd learn, but unfortunately not.
No, it doesn't seem to be that way, does it? 69 minutes, Jesus went close, but poked it over the top. 88 minutes, oh, captain, my captain. Martin Odegaard bends a strike past Bazuna. Did I get that right? Bazuna?
There's a few names I was calling him, it weren't there.
White tees up the skipper from the edge of the box. He drops his shoulder before curling a left-footed strike. I was so impressed with Martin Odegaard. Obviously, I love the guy to bits. I mean, if I'm going to have a statue made of him just for the lounge, I think. Probably full size as well, just to wind everyone up, but I'd probably interfere with the telly, maybe not. But he really put his back into it, George, didn't he? He really did. Kind of picked the game up by the scruff of the neck and charged forward.
Yeah, I've said I even said this when we bought Martin Odegaard off on loan from Madrid. If we could get him on a permanent, that he's got a glass ceiling, and when that breaks, that is. Like, everyone bans on about De Bruyne and all that, but I think Martin Odegaard's up there with him. like this season especially. Like you've got to think, how old is he? 22, 23? He's not old at all.
Podcast family, you're going to expect this, but I'm going to say he's better than De Bruyne this season on the evidence of the entire season.
Yeah, I'd agree. To be fair, he brings that's the sort of thing like a captain who's playing for years and experience would do. That he got us back into that game. I will say though, before when we went 3-1 down, I still didn't think we was out of the game. I think that
we've lost him. We've lost him. We've just getting to a crucial point and we've lost him.
Can you hear me?
Stick with it, George.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Something's happened. We'll come back to George in a minute when he can connect up with us. But we've got a nice picture of his clock. Lovely old clock there. He's disappeared altogether. Right, at this point, we started looking like we could go on, Paul, and snatch a victory. I mean, we threw the kitchen sink at them. We played really well for about 10 minutes. 90 minutes, Nelson collects the ball in the box, lines up a strike. Bazuna makes the save, but Saka's, he's there again, isn't he? I mean, sometimes he gets snuffed out of a game because he's got 3 or 4 players on him. But he's there at a crucial moment and has been all season.
Yeah, he took the chance really well. And I think also...
I've lost everyone.
I'm still here.
Yeah, I can hear you as well.
I can hear you, Lauren.
Yeah.
Right. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Tom, perfectly. Yeah.
Oh, what happened there? It's so exciting, Podders, isn't it? It's like a Tottenham fans working the technology. Anyway, we're getting back to Saka, Paul. He's the right man in the right place at the right time, 90% of the time, isn't he?
Yeah, and he got himself into the box at the right time as well, brought himself in from the wings because he could see the opportunity was about to emerge there. I think also as well, I think Trossard made a massive difference when he came on. And I agree with what George London said before. Even at 3-1, I thought Arsenal was still in the game. It was just a question of when they could get that second goal back. And arguably, it came about 5 minutes too late. If that second goal goes in at 81, 82, then I think there's a good chance of getting the win. Trossard playing the ball on the ground, making runs, making passes, suddenly created problems for the Southampton defence that they hadn't really had for the first 20 minutes of the first half. And great finish from Saka. And Gabriel Jesus never stopped the whole game. And even though he didn't score, he was still there making a nuisance of himself, creating the opportunity there for Saka to score. And we often say, when you're looking to win league titles, you need your big players to step up at big moments in the game. And that equaliser from Saka actually gave Arsenal the best part of 8 minutes to go on and get a winning goal. And Trossard came so close to doing so.
That's the classic. It's almost like we got Fergie time. George will come back for that point on Odegaard in a minute, but 90 plus Trossard hits the bar, if I can say it properly. Someone pointed out on social media he started 7 games or been involved in 7 games, and they've been 7 wins. I didn't get a chance to check that out. So if that's the case, let's get him in for the Man City game. Anyway, 90 plus 5, Saka forces the ball to Jesus, who goes down under pressure. The referee waves play on. Loose ball falls to Nelson, who places his effort inches wide of the post with the aid of a deflection. 90 plus 10, penalty shout, Jesus, down in the box amid a scramble in the box. But the referee I should go to an NHS dentist, shouldn't I, really? The referee...
Jonathan Ruston.
The referee waves play on. Right, we got through that. George, we're coming back to you. That point on Odegaard before we lost you.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was just basically saying...
Pay your bill, mate.
Yeah, I need to. Cost of living. I think the reason why Arsenal are where they are in the table is quite a lot of it is from Odegaard as well. Not just of how he plays on the pitch, but off the pitch. Like, you've got to think he's captain of Norway as well. So I was just basically saying that for me, he could become one of the best midfielders in the world in the next 18 months.
I'll tell you what, as well, I think it was a Southampton game. Blimey, they're coming so thick and fast, you forget where you are, don't you? You don't know what you're doing anymore. Was it Zinchenko called a huddle? And then Odegaard remonstrated with Zinchenko, probably saying, "Oh, yeah, that's my job." Yeah. Did you see that, Paul? What did you think of that?
Yeah, I thought it was really strange, and you're right, Tom. I thought if anyone's going to do that, it's Odegaard. He's the captain, and he did well to come and say, "Hang on," to Zinchenko, because Zinchenko didn't have the best of games. I didn't think either. Yeah, if anyone's going to call a huddle, it's the team captain. I don't think Zinchenko would have called that huddle if Zach had been on the pitch. He wouldn't have dared to. He wouldn't have dared to assume that authority. He absolutely would not have done. And who can blame him?
Well, I was going to say, if anyone had called it, it would have been Xhaka, and Odegaard would probably been okay with that. But I think there is a tendency with Zinchenko, because he's such a passionate player, that it kind of overflows at time, and he's got to watch that. Anyway, let's do the match stats. Arsenal first and Southampton second. 25 shots for Arsenal, 8 for them. 6 shots on target for us, 6 for them. 75% possession in the end for Arsenal, 25% for them, 670 passes for us, 237 for them, 86% pass accuracy, 64% for them. 10 fouls and 14 fouls, 1 yellow card for Arsenal, 5 for them. Dirty buggers. Anyway, boys, take a break, have a cup of tea or something, sit back. We're going to go through the WSL now, probably cry ourselves to sleep tonight. Lauren, we're short of good news, but we'll try and give it a go, won't we?
Yeah.
Up first, it was the United game, which saw us fall further behind, chasing the pack. We'll talk about the game in a minute, but that's the league done for us, isn't it? It's just a case of getting into the top 4 now.
It's going to be tough to bring it back. Obviously, that was kind of the crunch game. We were going up against United, who are top. I think they have 3-point lead on us, a 3-point lead on Chelsea. So, look, that's another team that no one really expected to be pushing or being where they are this season. They have some great players. They're really challenging this season. At this point in time, it looks like it's between United and Chelsea, which, one team was always going to be up there, and then the other is a nice surprise. So I suppose it's the better of two evils who ends up winning it now. Arsenal aren't completely out of it, but it's going to be very, very, very difficult, given not just injuries, but the I suppose the results that we've had as well. Not so favourable for us, but to even have pushed so far, given the severity of injuries and just the general crazy breaks. I mean, we've spoken about this before in the pod. The breaks for international games.
I think it's been ridiculous this season, how many breaks and interludes. Yeah. It takes out any momentum that you're building up. It's really annoying. And the same with these hideous internationals, these friendlies and all the rest of it that we seem to be peppering the old football schedule with. It's not good enough. It takes away. I mean, the Premier League, the WSL, it's your bread and butter. That's what you do. All this fannying about with all these other competitions drives me absolutely insane.
For sure. No, I agree completely. Obviously, they're trying to build the excitement for the World Cup coming up. It's going to be a great summer for the women's game. Haven't had the Euros last year, but if you're, how many players do we see go down with ACL injuries, with long-term injuries? Is it worth it? Probably not. Just to build the excitement around it. So yeah, it's not something I'm a fan of. But in terms of Arsenal for the WSL title, it's going to be tough this season. It's going to be very, very tough. But you still have to be proud of the girls for the shift they put in.
Oh yeah, I just got to say about this game, Arsenal just weren't good enough to win that game. It wasn't pretty, to be honest, from either side at times. Injuries, as you said, are a major factor, as they are with the men's team. Worse still, as we'll come to it now, Podders, go and take some Valium or something. Leah Williams went down. It was kind of an innocuous challenge, wasn't it, really? It didn't seem to be much contact, but she went down like a bag of bricks, and you just feared the worst. And then the old stretcher came out. She's a massive loss for the Lionesses and for the Gunners as well. How can we cope with this? And why do we seem to get a spate of these RCLs?
Unfortunately, it's women's football. There's no real rhyme or rhythm to it. But if you think about it, last season in the women's Ballon d'Or awards, the top 25 of the women were out with ACL injuries. So there's a lot of research that needs to go into it to see what's behind that. If it's maybe the boots, maybe the equipment isn't right for the female anatomy. Maybe it's just the fact that the strength and conditioning isn't quite there yet. Maybe it's this crazy fixture list. Whatever it is, it's not just an Arsenal problem. it's not just an Arsenal thing. Obviously, we're the only team that have 3 players out at the
By
moment.
the way, you sneak that in again, Lauren.
Yeah, have to, of course,
Let's keep plugging it.
But unfortunately, it's not one of those things that we can just sit here and say, oh, it's definitely because of Arsenal. No, I think we're just unlucky that 3 of our best players are out with it. But it's a massive, massive issue for women's football in general. These crazy amount of ACL injuries, women at the height of their careers, you know, having to lose a full season basically because of whatever the unknown cause is. But no, it's absolutely devastating. I think of all the players, Leah Williamson is probably one of the one player that you would not want to see that happen to. Even for myself, you know, Ireland are going to be in the World Cup this season, so I'm not going to be that big of a fan of the Lionesses, but it's absolutely devastating that she's not going to be there, you know, as their captain. She brought them to the Euros last year, and it just breaks your heart that she won't get to live her World Cup dream this time around. So
I kind of see her as the glue to the side now as well, with all these people flopping in and out. It's just impossible. United are the 3rd team after Chelsea and Manchester City to do the double over Arsenal, but they deserve to win on the sort of broad spectrum. Take us through the side, Lauren.
Yeah, well, indeed, I have it here. Zinsberger was in goal, so this was just off the back of another women's international break. So, you know, a lot of players were traveling back from wherever they were. We had Zinsberger in goal, Wienreuter right back, Wuben Moy, Rafaela were a centre back pairing, Maritz was left back. Leah Williamson was actually playing in the midfield role, taking over where Kim Little would have played, but obviously she's out for the rest of the season as well. Manum and Valti, it's crazy. Manum and Valti made up the rest of the midfield. They made Blacksinius up front with January signings Palova and Catherine Kuhl starting on the wing. So there was no Katie McCabe. She also missed the game. She wasn't on the bench. So the squad was the team itself was quite not our most optimal starting 11, let's say. But
I was going to say, it looks like a puzzle where someone thinks that a piece fits and they're just, you know, pressing on it to try and make it fit. Get in there, get in there. We had a fairly aggressive and competitive press, but it always felt as though the game, when it wore on, it was going to be a hurdle too many, wasn't it? We couldn't get going. We lacked cohesive play against the well-drilled United side. But I wasn't over-impressed with United. I know they were top and all the rest of it, but they didn't seem to be the full shilling.
It was, I just thought both sets of players looked very cagey in the game. No one wanted to take too many chances. It was such a high risk game, let's say. No one wanted to drop the points, just coming back from the international break. It was very, 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 I suppose, weary. No one was really pushing, but yeah, I think United did just have the edge slightly. But we've played against Chelsea, we played against United in the Emirates this season, and they absolutely dominated against us. You know, it wasn't that type of a game, but I think at the end of the day, they probably did deserve the 3 points.
Yeah, I was just thinking, Podders, bear with me. Chelsea doing well this season. I've got a way to undermine them. We just let Frank Lampard go and take over the women's team. That'll be it, wouldn't it? I just saw a fact come up. 17 matches, and he had a win and a draw out of 17 matches. How does he get employed? No one knows. We were quite decent on the break, but we just lacked inventiveness to fashion clear chances, didn't we? United were dominant, but a bit toothless, as you said. Palova and Manum were probably our standouts up to a point from what I saw. Then the lemon into the cut. They squeezed that lemon into that cut. 45 plus 5. Take us through that goal. Guess who it was, Podders? Come on, Lauren. Put us out of our misery.
It was Alessia Russo. No, it was Russo, the striker, obviously for United, who we were linked to in the summer. Yeah, very high-profile push to get her. I think that would have probably made the difference to our season, would be to have a massive striker like her up top who can just slot goals in when she wants. But to be honest, it was a good goal from her. Right on the cusp of half time as well. I think probably just lost a bit of concentration, and I can't really remember what happened in the build up to it now, to be honest. There's been a lot of football since then, but she just it looked easy for her. She just had to slot it past the keeper, and I think Zinsberger probably could have done more to stop it going in, but yeah, went in
Just
obviously
to fill
just
in
on
the
the
blanks,
cusp of
Bob.
half time as well. Sorry.
That's all right. Just to fill in the blanks, it was Paris on the right. The winger got to the byline, cut it back for the striker. It was just dead clinical. I mean, that's all you can say. A horrible time to go behind because Arsenal were patchy at best. Having said that, United, as I said, weren't really much copy. But the game, United bossed it from midfield, didn't they, Lauren? They didn't really. They put the crunch on us really, and I think only Leah Williamson was capable of seeing that off. But as we said, after 12 minutes, she was taken off. Pattern of play continued in the second half. Man United barely got out of gear and didn't really look like they were trying at times, which was a bit weird. It was a brutal battle as well, wasn't it? I'm just looking at the stats here. 10 and 11 fouls either side. So, yeah, it was quite mental. Right, let's push on then, Lauren. We've had enough of those injuries and sobbing into our cornflakes. The Champions League, Wolfsberg. Yes. I mean, they're no mugs, are they? Two-time Champions League winners. So let's set out the team that faced them.
We had Zinsberger in goal again. Sorry, I have it here in front of me. Zinsberger in goal. We played with a back three. So we had Raffaele. Jen Beattie came in. She actually came on against the United, and I thought she had a great game. She's one of our more experienced players. And we also had Ruben Moy. Steph Catley was back from injury, playing on the left, and Maritz was on the right then. Midfield of Valti and Manum with Blackstenius up top. Katie McCabe was back in on the left wing, and then Pelova retained her position then on the right wing as well. So it was a pretty decent team, a bit more experience than what we sent out against United. And yeah, I
like the look of that. When I saw that, I thought, that's more like it. At least he's given that some thought. He hasn't kind of put his hand in a bin and pulled out a name and put it on the board. It was a bit like an X Factor moment where they just take the names out.
Back three, back three. It's like when I was looking at it, because I was like, oh, well, Jen Beattie, yeah, maybe. But then obviously having Katie McCabe back, I think Pelova, as an from an Arsenal Finns point of view, it was like Trossard and Pelova, January signings, like men and women, like absolute quality signings. So
absolutely.
And I think people underestimate what Leo Volti does in that midfield.
For sure.
When, I don't normally like Williamson in midfield. I'd rather start centre half. But when you have Volti there, I think she controls it. So yeah, I was quite impressed with that. I was quite impressed. We actually put 11 out, and it's actually not fat at 11. There's a couple
it's getting like that, isn't it?
There's a couple of people on the bench I didn't even know who they were. I don't know if they were a couple of the fans that we took out there. I know
first 5 in on the bench.
There.
Well, we might not have a full complement of players to choose from, but we can still dig deep, can't we, Lauren? Wolfsberg, home advantage, got off to a flyer. 2-0 after 7 minutes, which sucked. It looked like being another uncomfortable evening, didn't it? Sort of shifting about in your seat, inflicting pain and distress on Arsenal fans. That's what this team does. It was another nail-biter, and this result could be and should be viewed as brilliant. You're on foreign soil and you come back to 2-2. We'll go into detail in a second. Wolfsberg made their intentions clear as they set about trying to please the home fans with their purpose, and it paid off. 19 minutes, Lauren. A long ball comes in. You can pronounce this one. Who is she?
Go on, Lauren.
Jonsdottir. Sorry, I don't speak Icelandic, but I don't know. It sounds like that.
That's a good effort, because on the highlights, that's exactly how they said it. So
super.
I was looking. I actually sent Lauren a message earlier and said, "You can Google these names because I've got a clue." She passed it to the other person. What was her name?
Pajor.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. I can say Jill Ward's name. That's the only one from there.
Why can't they all be called Smith and make it really easy? 25 minutes in, Arsenal shot themselves in the foot with some really, again, it's defence, sloppy defending, and that person that you said.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, you'll hear it a lot on the podcast till the end of the season, I'm sure. So 2-0 up. We needed something to knock them out of their stride because they were looking fairly ominous around 45 minutes. We got one back. Take us through that one, Laura.
Yeah,
It's
that
easy to pronounce
was
this one, isn't it?
yeah, it was. Who was it? Raffaele. Yeah, it was Raffaele from a header from the corner. Yeah, she's always there. I mean, she really is, big Brazilian centre back. We know that well. Always scoring from corners. Absolutely. She's always there. She's very solid, especially when there's so much instability in the back line. She's one of those players you can almost always count on to be there, and she always comes up with the goals as well. That goal definitely gave us, I suppose, a bit of confidence, a bit of self-belief that we could come back, because I think, to be honest, it's what we've seen when Arsenal went 2-0 up as well. I think Wolfsberg sat back and said, okay, yeah, we have them now, we don't need to push ourselves too much. Also, I want to bring up, I want to bring this up as well, the first leg was played on Sunday and we're playing the second leg on Thursday. It's a very weird scheduling fixture. I've never seen that happen in the Champions League before, to have two games so close to each other. So I don't know if that was playing as well on the players' mind, but for sure, I think once they went 2-0 up, I think they kind of
you're right. I sensed the shift in momentum. It was all them. They were really going to put us to the sword. Then all of a sudden, when that goal went in, we looked a lot better. 69 minutes, who else but Black Stingers came to the rescue? Full stretch from what I saw. I went to have a drink and the ball was in the net. It was
she ain't stopped scoring since I said she's absolutely useless.
I said keep saying it.
I said it like 6-7 weeks ago. Yeah, I said it 6-7 weeks ago, and I was like, if she could, I kept saying, no, she's like Shamak, but in the women's team, and just could not score to save her life.
Well, and George, can you say that about Jesus for tomorrow?
I'll say about all of them. Then there's a story when we played in the cup final, because I went to that with my friend. So we was in the pub before, and I said, not knowing, because I couldn't see everyone who was around, I was like, if Black Stingers scores and we win the cup, I'll buy everyone who's standing here a shot. And then about 15 people said, all right then. So, and then obviously the same thing happened. So that was a very expensive round.
That goal, it came from good build-up play through McCabe. Manham picked out a pass to Black Stingers, who just prodded it home. Actually, it could have gone the wrong side, couldn't it? Because some of these efforts, when you're having a little slide in to get a toe on it, it doesn't quite work out. That's how it stayed. Great result. Let's not allow ourselves, Podders, to get carried away, because this home leg could spring a surprise, and they're going to be more than up for it, more than capable. Just want to give you this, Lauren. Palova, 33 touches in this game, 14 out of 19 passes completed, 6 out of 7 in the final third. 3 times possession was won, 2 chances created, 2 interceptions, 2 fouls won, and 1 assist. She is a bit of a bargain, I would say, and I look forward to seeing more of her.
Absolutely. I think George said it perfectly there. She was up there with, best January business that we've done recently. We were really desperate for a bit of quality. It was hard to find players to come in. Obviously, we went after Russo, but she stayed put at United. You can understand why now at this stage, seeing where they're at. But
so that should join in the summer.
Yeah, I don't know. All she wants is Champions League football, and I think she was waiting on that to see, which team could bring it to her. So, if United end up top, I don't think she'll be moving. But look,
we'll win it, so we'll be alright. So
yeah, true.
Just as Champions League winners.
That's very true. That's very true. But no, absolutely. She's been great since she's coming in. And obviously, she's had massive boots to fill. Obviously, coming in for Beth Mead. But she's done well so far, and it's going to be exciting to see. Like I said, the second leg now is on Thursday night. I believe 50,000 tickets have been sold for the Emirates. It's going to be a massive game.
That's one thing, Lauren, I've got to say, is the girls have to play in better stadiums, and when the chaps are not playing there, the girls should take priority and just go in there rather than playing in some of these grounds that just I don't know, they look like Halfords or something. You've got to sort it out if you're going to take the game seriously. We've said it on the pod before, let's take it seriously. Right. Then, guys, let's push on with some news. Maitland-Niles, Paul, is due to depart. It's been agreed apparently some months ago that he's not going to extend his contract. I don't think Arsenal were that interested either. What do you make of the Maitland-Niles situation, Paul?
Well, was he the one who was linked with Everton about 12 months ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. Arteta would release somebody.
No.
No, yeah, I
And his
think
I
mum
suppose
had to go.
Arteta was edging his bets, wasn't he? Really, he was seeing whether he could use him or not.
Yeah,
His mum had a go at Mick McCarthy when he was on loan at Ipswich.
Well,
It kind of worked out.
Mick McCarthy,
Yeah.
not somebody else have a go at really, given his reputation.
She left a voicemail on his phone saying that you need to pick my son, and it was quite abusive apparently.
Was it?
Yeah.
It just hasn't worked out for him, Paul, is it? It's a shame because
No,
he's a
no,
Highland boy, but
Yeah, no, it just hasn't worked out. And I would, more what goes on in the background than myself, but I just assume Arteta not being convinced by what he's offered in training. He's not being convinced by he's not being convinced that he's worth a first team place. So it's a part of the way. It happens sometimes. Interested to speculate how it might have turned out for him at Everton, because he would have been groomed as being a replacement for Seamus Coleman, and Everton never really replaced Seamus Coleman. He's about 38, 39 now, and he's still playing week in, week out. So Maitland-Niles would have been a good option for us, but sometimes it has to be a part of the way. Wish them the best of luck, but I guess you won't be going to a club that's managed by Mick McCarthy.
Yeah, I think with Maitland-Niles, it was his attitude as well.
Yeah,
Like,
I heard grumbles that he wasn't. He wouldn't put his back into training some of the time, and he did have a bit of a superstar attitude with sort of Tesco boots. So he never really pulled his weight. George, got one for you. Guendouzi, Matteo Guendouzi, the Boston Strangler, 9 million apparently, and he's gone from 9 million up to 31 million pounds in value. Was it a mistake to let him go? What do you make of that?
Absolutely not.
I'm with you.
He's just his whole attitude. He thought he was better than what he was. He was like he looked like me trying to run around the field trying to find the ball. He showed a lot of passion, but is it passion or is it just stupidity? That's when it crosses the line.
He genuinely had the talent and the potential, but that sort of fiery side of him was never going to fit in the Premier League because he gets too many red cards.
Yeah, I think what done it for me is when he said to the person at Brighton, "Well, I am more than your whole team." Like when it's funny when you listen back, but it's not the sort of person you want at your club. And if you compare in that position where Guendouzi would play, I don't even think he'd get anywhere near our squad, to be honest. And they compare, he's playing in France, but apparently Muso Sissoko, who used to play for Spurs, is good out there. So,
that tells its own story then, doesn't it? I'll be all right out there then. I'll be dodgy knee. Paul.
Even Ross Barkley's been good for France, I believe.
That's what I mean.
Is that where he is?
Yeah. He's at Nice, I think. Nice.
Yeah, it's quite nice for him.
It says, yeah.
Just like
he's with Ramsey as well.
Yeah, he's with Ramsey. That's right, George. Yeah.
It's all kicking off here, isn't it? Right, Paul Pep seems to be bang on with the mind games this season, doesn't he? Writing off the season really early. None of us believed it. Comments about tiredness. Is he now the heir to the Ferguson bullshit throne of mind games?
I think he's always been like that, hasn't he? I think Robert would give you some insight as to how would you remember the Barcelona, because I think he's a master as those sorts of companies for the Classico and things like that. So it's nothing new as far as Pep Guardiola is concerned. He's doing what you have to do. He's trying to wind up the opposition. It's always an intriguing clash this when you've got the master and the apprentice come up against each other, and it's almost like he's just trying to put Arteta in his place a little bit. I'm not quite sure, but tomorrow night, we shall see who prevails on the day.
Arteta got a spear in him or something.
I'm going to have a few Stella Artois. I shall have a few before the game. I shall have a few during the game, and probably have a shed full after the game.
I I think as well, Tom, given all that's gone on in Spain this week with the Real Madrid, Barcelona trying to hide each other's fastest connections with General Franco, it might be quite good about Arteta stood on the touchline dressed as General Franco with a little moustache and a Spanish army uniform on, and with a big banner saying "Catalonia freedom, never, never, never."
Lauren, what sort of game do you envisage against Manchester City? I mean, it's one of those games where we've got to be fired up, but we've got to be careful. We've got to be sensible. We can't go rushing in and getting yellow cards and all that sort of jazz. To high pressing teams, obviously they're going to want to make a statement, and they're almost like mirror reflections, aren't they, of each other?
Yeah, no, it's going to be a tough one. It's not a game I'm looking forward to by any stretch of the imagination, to be completely honest. I'm really considering whether I can actually put myself through it or not, because I just don't think I can. You know.
Yeah, you have to.
I know.
We're upholding 95th minute winner.
No, I will. I'm sure I will. It's going to be tough, but you know, something that we can take from the positive side is we went there in the FA Cup this season and we were able to put on a good performance, you know, with Rob Holding on the pitch in the first half. Obviously he picked up a yellow card against Holding, but against Haaland. It's going to be tough.
Be another interesting contest because Rob Holding's going to definitely play and the robot's going to play, isn't he?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a very compelling game of football. I think it's probably, to be completely honest, one of the biggest games of the season, regardless of the league, regardless of where you're watching it from. A lot is riding on this game, and oh God, I don't know what to expect. I can't tell you what to expect. I think based on what we've seen before, I think Arsenal are going to go out strong. To be completely honest, I think the best we can do from this game is a draw. That's what I'm expecting from it anyway.
Well, a draw won't be the end of the world, will it? I mean, you know, a half full 2-2
best case scenario,
or something like that. That would be handy. Nice bit of entertainment as well, a few beers. But I mean, I don't know. We've had a couple of games against City where we've absolutely run them ragged, and we were the better team. And luck wasn't with us. I mean, Gabriel getting sent off and all this sort of jazz, it hadn't worked out for us. But we've got the potential. We could actually do it. Paul, I'm just going to come back to you a minute. You know, when you said Ramsdale giving a ball to a defender and basically he doesn't want it. I remember it was Lee Dixon said that Lukic threw the ball out just before the goal. And
in 89.
What are you giving it to me for? I don't want it. And he played the ball of his life. He said, basically, I just hope I don't shank it. He put it into Smithy, and then obviously Michael Thomas got on the end of it. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention that. Paul, who's the pressure on? Who's got more pressure in this? It's nicely set up, isn't it? Because the way the season has gone, you got the top two teams. There you could get a bus ticket between them. It's perfect. Who's got the more pressure? Do Arsenal go into this game thinking, oh, we've got nothing to lose?
Well, I think for the first time this season, Arsenal go into a game as the underdog, because I think most people who aren't Arsenal fans are kind of expecting City to kind of to get the win, given their current run of form. Well, what I would say is that City are prone to stumbles from time to time. Even Frank Lampard's Everton got a draw there in January.
Super Frankie Lampard.
Yeah. We got a 1-1 draw there.
Frank.
Yeah, but the one thing he got right in that game was most Everton games he'd have us playing out from the back. In that game, we didn't. It was the long ball from Pickford all the time. I think the one thing Arsenal can't do is take chances playing out from the back of this game. So I think, and the second thing I'd point out is going to Manchester City in terms of the atmosphere you're going to face is nothing like going to Anfield. It's nothing like going to London Derby. City Stadium is full of this new band of 20,000 plus football tourists who suddenly tagged onto a team that's winning. So you're not going to face an intimidating atmosphere. The ground is definitely quiet. There's more people there taking selfies of themselves and watching the game.
The cycling centre, Man City.
Yeah,
for the plastic fans.
Absolutely, George. I mean, so I think there's no pressure on Arsenal here because most outsiders not expecting to get anything for the game. I think if they get themselves tactically organised, I'd definitely start with Jorginho for the experience. I think you want something like that in the field to kind of settle the team down. I would even start Trossard as well. I think Trossard's such a good footballer. And what you have to try and do, I would guess, you're going to get caught on the break with the robots up against you and bursting through. So you've got to play a deeper back line as well. And at some stage in the game, if there's about 2 or 3 minutes to go and Arsenal winning 1-0, then just tell Ben White to go and kick Grealish into the stands and put him out for the rest of the season, take the other card and walk off.
George, it's an interesting point Paul made there. Who are the key players that you need to draft in for this game? Is it Jorginho for Xhaka? Would you take a chance on Trossard? Who would you replace with Trossard?
I think Arsenal got to play to their strengths. And I think everyone forgets Man City defensively ain't that strong. And the attacking element we have, I think we can punish that. So for me, I'll probably get pelters for this. I'd be dropping Thomas Partey for Jorginho.
Interesting.
I can see that, George.
And if Xhaka's fit, because apparently it just comes from my phone that he's having a late fitness test tomorrow. So,
is it mind games, George? Is
Mikel
giving it?
He likes his mind game. I wouldn't be even surprised if the sort of thing Arteta would do. You'll see old Saliba in a wheelchair turn up in the first 11. But I can see him going with Trossard, Ødegaard, Saka, Martinelli, and Jesus, and just playing Jorginho in that 6 role and Trossard just ahead of that number 8 role.
What about formation, George? What would you do with that? Would you throw caution to the wind, go back 3, push the 2 sort of players up further? You 2 sort of attacking options.
I think that's the beauty of having Ben White, because you can push him forward, but then it'll just go back into a flat back 4 again with having Zinni and Ben White, because they can push on.
We don't look solid with a back 4, let alone a back 3, do we?
Yeah, but what we've got to lose? But
only a title.
I just don't. I think we're running out of options to play alongside. If you're going to play Partey or Jorginho, they won't play Partey and Jorginho. Who would you rather, Vieira, Trossard, or Smith Rowe? There's your option. Unless you go Zinchenko there, I'm seeing it at left back, but I just don't see that.
No, I don't.
Or he might go very, very rogue, which I've seen someone say today, and play Ben White next to Gabriel, and then play Ray Waters, the 18-year-old at right back.
That's a baptism of fire, that one would be. Lauren, George has made a really good point. Yeah. What is the issue with Emil Smith-Rowe? Why hasn't he had more time? There is a sort of rumour doing the rounds that Mikel doesn't sort of favour him at the moment. Why not?
I think it has to be something either to do with fitness, maybe concerns about that. Maybe he's not where he wants him to be. Maybe he doesn't want to push him too hard after his injury as well. He's still a very, very young player. We've seen the likes of Jack Wilshere come through who, played hectic schedules at a very young age, and it took a toll on his body over the course of a few seasons. Emil Smith-Rowe was one of our best players last season, and he's one of the brightest hopes that we have at Arsenal. I still stand by that statement. I believe Arteta does as well. I think he's protecting him. I don't think it's anything other than he just wants to make sure that he's fit and he's ready to go when he gets his chance. I'd love to see him play a bit more this season. I really, really would. But, in saying that, there's players like Reece Nelson who've come on and they've been absolutely stellar every time that they've got the opportunity to come on. And I'd love to see more from him as well. I think one thing Arteta could improve on is his, I suppose, subs management throughout games as well. I'd love to see him be a bit more effective with that, be a bit more proactive as opposed to reactive.
Yeah, it's been a bit random.
It has at times, yeah. So I really don't think the problem lies on Smith Rowe. Look at the positions that he's trying to get into the team with. You're talking about you know, Odegaard having to come off. He's the captain. Very rarely is he taken off. You know, where else is he going to come on? Maybe for Xhaka. Again, how often is Xhaka out or injured? Very, very infrequently this season. Obviously, we had it last game and Vieira came on. Was it just the fact that maybe Arteta thought, look, this is Southampton. There's 19 places between us and them. Maybe we can afford to rest Smith Rowe and have him come on as the games go on throughout the season. I'm not sure, but personally, to me, obviously, I'm not training every day with the players. I don't see what goes on, but based on the season that Smith Rowe had last season, I can't imagine that it has anything to do with him, with his style of play, with his determination. He has everything that Arteta appears to want in a player. So from my side, it has to be purely precautionary why he's not getting played more.
Right then, guys, let's do a quick round before we toddle off, because we've got a bit between our teeth and we were just rambling on, weren't we? It's brilliant, though. George, what's your prediction?
2-1 Arsenal.
Ooh,
Loving it. Paul?
I'll go 1 each.
Okay. Lauren?
I'd be happy with the draw. I think 2-2.
I'm just going to go an Arsenal win. I don't care how it happens.
You have to.
I'm not even going to give a score because it makes me nervous. That's what I'm going to do. Right then, guys, before we go, the podcast is brought to you by manscaped.com. We've got 20% off their Performance Package 4.0. You've got to go to manscaped.com and you've got to put in the following code, ARS03. And we've also got new partners as well, Zenith Coins. If you haven't seen them, they're just behind me there. Just fish one over there. Beautiful looking coins. You can get 15% off. Go to zenith.com and put in the code ARS71. Guys, you've been brilliant. Thank you very much coming on the podcast again. You are the team. You are the team. Keep believing, podders. We will get there in the end. I'm sure we will. We're still in for this. We're still in for that. And don't let anyone tell you any different. As Paul rightly said, 89 was a tough gig, but we got there. Guys, take care. You look after yourselves.
Cheers.
Take care.
See you guys. Enjoy the game tomorrow.
Yeah,